Welcome to the deep dive. We all think we know the story of King Arthur, right? That legendary sword in the stone.
Absolutely. Destiny, power, the mystical blade.
Yeah.
Only the true king can pull it out. Classic stuff.
Feels incredibly British, doesn't it? Like baked into the folklore.
It does.
But what if I told you that this iconic image, this whole sword in the stone thing, might actually have, well, a very real, tangible inspiration?
Oh.
Yeah, and from somewhere completely different. Italy, believe it or not.
Italy. Okay, now you've got my attention. Arthur in Italy.
Not Arthur himself, but the story. So our mission today in this deep dive is to look at sources suggesting this famous legend has a real-life counterpart
A
there.
real sword in a stone in Italy.
Exactly. We're going to explore this lesser-known story, see how it might have influenced, one of Britain's biggest myths.
Okay. And what are we drawing on for this?
We've got some historical documents, bits from an audio piece, even some modern science research that's been done. Should be quite the journey.
Sounds fascinating. Because, when you think Arthur, you picture that sword stuck fast. Maybe it's Excalibur, maybe not. Depends on the version.
Right, the ultimate test, proving he's the rightful heir to Uther Pendragon chosen by destiny.
But as you hinted, this whole idea, this powerful image, maybe it's not entirely unique to Arthur.
So yeah, we have this huge Arthurian narrative, everyone knows it. But there's something else out there. What's this real-life counterpart you mentioned?
Okay, so let's shift focus. Head over to Tuscany, Italy.
Tuscany, right.
For centuries, there's been this story there. And crucially, not just a story, but an actual object. A sword in a stone.
Wait, an actual sword?
Yes. Believed to belong to a figure called Saint Galgano. And some experts, they really think this Tuscan sword could be the real deal. The inspiration for the legend we know.
Hold on. There's a 12th century sword stuck in bedrock that people think was put there by this Saint Galgano, and it's still there today.
That's the claim. It's still there in a chapel. We're talking tangible evidence, not just folklore passed down.
That's incredible. So tell me about Saint Galgano.
Well, he's actually quite significant himself. He was the very first saint canonized, officially made a saint through a formal investigation process by the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Not just by popular belief.
Ah, okay. So there'd be records.
Exactly. A lot of what we know comes from the documents related to his canonization, which happened in 1185, just a few years after he died. And some later writings, too.
And who was he before becoming a saint? Born Galgano, Guidotti, 1148, near Siena.
Yeah.
Right.
Noble family.
Minor nobility, yeah. And by all accounts, his youth was, let's say, less than saintly, wealthy knight, arrogant, apparently quite violent, focused on worldly pleasures, trained for war.
Doesn't exactly scream future saint.
Not at all. Which makes his transformation even more, remarkable. It apparently started with a vision.
A vision.
Of the archangel Michael, often shown as a warrior saint himself. Michael supposedly showed Galgano the path to salvation, gave him directions, essentially.
And he just listened. Seems so. The story goes, the very next day, he declared he was becoming a hermit. Moved into a cave nearby.
I can imagine his family and friends were thrilled.
Huh. Yeah, reportedly met with a lot of ridicule. Understandably. His mother, Donia, though, she convinced him to at least go visit his fiancée one last time.
Okay, so he agrees.
He does. He sets off, still dressed as a nobleman, on his horse. But then on the journey, the horse rears up, throws him off. And then it gets stranger. He feels this, invisible force lift him up, and hears an irresistible voice described as seraphic, leading him towards a hill called Mount Sepi.
Mount Sepi, near his hometown.
That's right. At the bottom of a hill, the voice tells him to stop, look up, and he sees this vision. A round temple, the 12 apostles, Jesus and Mary.
Whoa.
Then the voice commands him to climb. As he goes up, the vision fades. At the top, the voice speaks again. Renounce all worldly desires.
And what did he say? I mean, after all that.
He actually objected. He basically said, that's as easy as splitting solid rock with a sword. It just can't be done.
He argued with the seraphic voice.
Apparently. And to prove his point, how impossible it was, he draws his own sword and tries to thrust it into the rocky ground there on the hilltop, probably expecting it to snap or just bounce off.
Don't leave me hanging.
And to his complete astonishment, the blade just slides in, goes right into the stone. The accounts say, as easy as a hot knife through butter.
No way.
That's the legend. The sword went right in. And for Galgano, that was it. The message was clear.
So the very thing he used to prove it impossible became the proof itself.
Precisely. The symbol of his old life, his violence, now embedded in the rock as a sign of his renunciation. He understood. He stayed on that hill, Became a humble hermit.
A complete turnaround from the wealthy knight.
Totally. Lived in poverty, peasants apparently came for blessings sometimes. He even supposedly befriended wild animals.
Like a real St. Francis type figure.
Sort of, yeah. There's even this one wild legend. The devil supposedly sent an assassin disguised as a monk.
Seriously, to kill a hermit.
Yeah, but get this. The wolves Galgano lived with supposedly attacked the assassin, gnawed his bones, saved the saint.
Okay, that part sounds intense. And maybe a bit embellished over time.
Huh, possibly.
Okay.
But it adds to the mystique, right? Anyway, Galgano didn't live long after his transformation, died young, only 33, in 1181.
33, same age as well, yeah.
And canonized just 4 years later. His funeral was apparently a big deal. Bishops, abbots attended.
So his story spread quickly then?
It seems so. And the year after his death, the local bishop put Mount Sipi under the care of Cistercian monks. They started building that round chapel, the Cappella di Monte Sipi, right there in 1185.
The one where the sword is.
The very one. Built in his memory, right above the main abbey they also constructed. And the sword's been there, in the chapel, ever since.
Oh, absolutely. For centuries, I imagine people must have thought, come on, a sword stuck in a rock, it's got to be a fake.
Oh, absolutely. For a long time, it was widely dismissed, except maybe by the most devout. Seemed too convenient, too legendary.
But then you mentioned modern science.
Right. Fast forward to the 21st century. In 2001, Luigi Garlascelli from the University of Pavia did a meta-analysis.
Was it a modern fake?
Nope. The analysis confirmed the composition, the style, basic design, flat pommel, straight guard. It all fits with a 12th century weapon. No clear signs of it being recent.
Wow. So the sword itself is authentically old.
It seems so. And they did more. Ground-penetrating radar.
Right, you mentioned that, like an X-ray for the ground.
Exactly. That revealed a cavity, maybe about 2 meters by 1 meter, right underneath the sword.
A cavity? Like what?
They think it's likely a burial recess. Possibly, maybe containing St. Galgano's body. They haven't excavated, but it's there.
Okay, that adds another layer. Anything else?
Yes, and this bit is, well, a bit gruesome. There are 2 mummified arms kept in the same chapel.
Mummified arms, why?
Carbon dating confirmed they are also from the 12th century. And this actually lines up with a rather dark part of the legend.
Which is?
That anyone who tried to pull the sword out had their arms ripped off.
Ouch. Okay, that's vivid. So the arms might be from would-be sword thieves.
That's the speculation, yeah.
Yeah.
Adds a sort of grim validation to that part of the story, dating-wise.
So, okay, let's be clear. None of this proves definitively it's Galgano's sword, or that the miracle happened exactly like that.
No, absolutely not. It's not foolproof evidence of the story. But what it does do, as you said, is add significant credibility. It paints a shade of truth, as one researcher put it.
It shows the core elements. The ancient sword, the associated artifacts are genuinely from that time period. It wasn't just made up recently.
Right. It makes the whole thing much harder to just dismiss out of hand.
Which brings us back to Arthur. This Italian sword in the stone. How does it connect to the British legend? That's the big question.
This is where the debate gets really interesting. The core argument some people make is that the Arthurian version, the sword pulled from the stone, didn't actually start in Britain or France.
But in Italy, inspired by Galgano.
Potentially, yes. And the key here is the timeline.
Okay, lay it out for me.
The first written accounts we have of King Arthur pulling a sword, specifically from an anvil on top of a stone, come from Robert de Boron. He was a French poet in the 13th century.
13th century, and Galgano.
Galgano died in 1181. He was canonized, made a saint with that formal process in 1185.
So Galgano's story and the official recognition of it happened decades before Robert de Boron wrote about Arthur doing something similar.
Exactly. That's the crucial point. By the time de Boron was writing his poems, news of St. Galgano, this knight-turned-saint, his miraculous sword, his canonization by the church, could easily have spread across Europe.
It's certainly plausible. Stories traveled, especially stories about saints and miracles.
Very plausible. So the theory is that the Arthurian legend might have borrowed or been inspired by the story of this reformed Italian knight.
It's fascinating, though, how the meaning changes, even if the image is similar.
Totally different messages, aren't they?
Yeah, the Arthur story is all about proving worthiness, gaining power, destiny, glory. Pulling the sword out is the key.
It's an active acquisition. Proving might, claiming kingship. It's very outward focused.
Whereas Galgano's story is the complete opposite. It's about renunciation.
Exactly. Faith, humility, turning away from power and violence. He achieves his transformation by thrusting the sword in. Giving up his old life.
Putting the instrument of war, quite literally, into the ground. Permanently.
It's a powerful contrast, isn't it? Same core image,
Eh.
almost, but inverted meanings.
So whether it inspired Arthur or not, Galgano's story has its own weight. And this place, Montecipi, it still exists. People can visit.
Oh, absolutely. The Cappella di Monteciti, that round chapel, is still there, still safeguarding the sword, still embedded in the rock.
And those mummified arms.
Those two, apparently, they're part of the site.
And the abbey nearby.
Gabbia San Galgano, yeah. It's mostly ruins now, but magnificent ruins. Roofless, open to the sky, it's become a really popular spot.
Why? Just the ruins.
The history, the architecture, the haunting beauty of the place, and of course the legend. The Sword in the Stone draws a lot of people. It's quite atmospheric.
I can imagine. So this story may be a curious legend to some, but its legacy is definitely still present. Tangible, even.
Very much so. A real sword, a life changed dramatically, and this, well, tantalizing possible link to one of the world's most famous myths.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here, it really leaves you thinking about these two paths, doesn't it?
It does. King Arthur, destined for greatness, defined by removing a sword from stone, taking up power.
And then St. Galgano, finding peace, finding sainthood by doing the opposite, by plunging his sword into the stone, leaving his old life behind.
Two different ways of engaging with the symbolic power of the sword and the stone.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, listening. What might it mean, metaphorically, to put a sword in a stone in your own life?
Yeah, that's interesting. What impossible task, maybe? Or what belief, what attachment, what part of your old life might you need to symbolically drive into the ground?
Right, to find maybe a different kind of peace, a different purpose, regardless of what others might think, the ridicule Galgano faced.
Something to ponder, definitely. What needs embedding rather than extracting?
We'll leave you with that thought.